Dibba is a coastal area at the northern tip of the eastern Arabian Peninsula on the Gulf of Oman. It is politically divided into three segments: Dibba Al-Fujairah, ruled by the Emirate of Fujairah, UAE; Dibba Al-Hisn, ruled by the Emirate of Sharjah, UAE; Dibba Al-Baya, ruled by the Governorate of Musandam, Oman. History. This large natural harbour on the east coast of the Northern Emirates has been an important site of maritime trade and settlement since the pre-Islamic era. There is some slight evidence, mainly from tombs, of settlement during the later 2nd millennium and the early 1st millennium BCE, contemporary with such sites as Shimil, Tel Abrak and Rumah. There is also scattered occupation during the period of Al-Dua and Miliha, but it is in the period just prior to and after the coming of Islam that we hear most about Dibba. Under the Sassanians and the Omani clans, the Al-Julanda, an important market existed at Dibba and that it was sometimes the capital of Oman. According to Ibn Habib, merchants from Sind, India, China, people of the east and west came to it. Soon after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, a rebellion broke out at Dibba and a faction of the Azd, led by Laki bin Malik Duat-Taj, rejected Islam. According to one tradition, Laki was killed by an envoy of the Caliph Abu Bakr in what may have been a relatively small struggle, while other sources including Al-Tabari say that at least 10,000 rebels were killed in one of the biggest battles of the Ridda Wars. The plain behind Dibba still contains a large cemetery which, according to local tradition, represents the fallen apostates of Dibba. During the time of the Abbasid Caliph Al-Mu'tadid, a great battle was fought at Dibba during the conquest of Oman by the Abbasid governor of Iraq, Bahrain, Muhammad bin Anwar. Thereafter, references to Dibba in historical literature are scarce, until we come to the Portuguese who built a fortress there. Dibba appears in the list of Southeast Arabian place names preserved by the Venetian jeweler Gasparo Balbi in CE 1580, and depictions of its Portuguese fort can be found in several sources, such as Cortesiero's Portugalii Monumenta Cartografica. Around 1620 to 1621, the Italian traveller Pietro della Valle, while staying with the Sultan of Bandar Abbas, met the son of the ruler of Dibba. For this he learned that Dibba had formerly been subject to the kingdom of Hormuz, but was at the time loyal to the Safavids. In 1623, Safavids sent troops to Dibba, Corfagan and other ports on the southeast coast of Arabia in order to prepare for a Portuguese counterattack. Following their expulsion from Hormuz, the Portuguese, under Rui Fra, were so successful that the people of Dibba turned on the Safavid overlords, putting them all to death, whereupon a Portuguese garrison of 50 men was installed at Dibba. More Portuguese forces had to be sent to Dibba in 1627 as a result of an Arab revolt. 2 years later, the Portuguese proposed moving part of the Mandaean population of southern Iraq to Dibba under pressure from neighboring Arab tribes. Although Dibba was offered to the Mandaeans, they were wise enough to see that the Portuguese force there would be insufficient to guarantee their security, and, while a few Mandaeans tested the waters by moving to Muscat, most returned to Basra in CE 1630. In 1645, the Portuguese still held Dibba, but the Dutch, searching for potential sites for new commercial activities, sent the warship Zimelu to explore the Musandam Peninsula between Kasab on the Persian Gulf side and Dibba on the east coast. Klaus Spielmann, the captain of the Zimelu, made drawings in his logbook, including what is certainly the earliest depiction of Dibba in a European source. Within a year or two, the Portuguese were forced out of Dibba and held only Kasab and Muscat, which they finally lost in 1650. 11 years later, Jacob Vogel's description of the east coast of the Oman Peninsula, prepared for the Dutch East India Company in 1666, contained the following: Dibba is a place with about 3 300 small houses constructed from branches of date trees. During the days of the Portuguese, there were here 4 fortresses, of which the biggest one is still standing. This place also has a valley with a lot of date trees under which there are water wells, where one can get fresh water. At the northern side of Dibba there is a small freshwater river where the fishermen live. The 1900s witnessed land disputes over Dibba. Geology. The Dibba Fault is an active fault, which means that it had a displacement or seismic activity during the geologically recent period, and is one of the 2 faults that run through the UAE. The fault crosses into Oman from the north and runs southward to the center of the Arabian Peninsula. Gulf News reported that people in Dibba have felt at least 150 tremors during 2003 and 2004, which indicates that there is a major earthquake waiting to happen in the area. Dibba also felt the 2005 Kashim earthquake. The Mesozoic and the Cenozoic accretionary wedges truncated on the western side by the right lateral fault, the Zendan Fault, Oman line, west of the transform of the Zagros Mountains of southern Iran, the Musandam Peninsula and the Oman Mountains, and the Arabian Platform and the Dibba Fault. The Dibba Fault separates the ophiolites in the Oman Mountains from the Mesozoic carbonates in the Musandam Peninsula. On the 31st of March 2009, Gulf News reported that the UAE's National Center of Meteorology and Seismology recorded 2 earth tremors, measuring magnitudes of 2.9 and 3.5 on the Richter scale, which shook the Gulf of Aden and the north of Dibba at 6:21 a.m. and 9:35 a.m. The tremors were lightly felt in some areas of the northern Emirates. Marine life. In 2008, an algal bloom affected the sea around Dibba and reached the tourist hotspots of Akar and Al-Fakit, which contain several high-end resorts. 95% of corals in the Dibba Marine Protected Zone were destroyed and the fish population dwindled to a minimum. Rita Bento, a marine biologist working with the Emirates Diving Association, said she saw only 3 fish during an hour-long dive in an area where previously hundreds were seen. Natural disasters. In June 2007, Dibba was affected by Cyclone Gonu, which caused damage to buildings and homes. Archaeology. There is evidence of extensive ancient settlement, and Dibba was an international market on the coast of Oman, frequented by merchants from India and China sailing through the Arabian Sea. Indian and Chinese merchant activity has also been discovered in Dibba, and in Chinese sources as well. The towns. Dibba Al-Fujairah on the east coast is one of the largest towns in Fujairah. It contains several small villages located between the mountains and the seacoast. In winter, people from all over the Emirates travel to Dibba to camp in the mountains, and in summer they enjoy water sports and the sandy beaches. Beaches in Dibba are considered among the best of the UAE and have many luxury hotels. Dibba Al-Hisn is bordered by the Gulf of Oman to the east, Dibba Al-Baya to the north, and Dibba Al-Fujairah to the south. It is the smallest in size among the other Dibbas, and is notable mostly for its fish market and a fortress, after which the town is named. Its population density is greater than the other towns. There have been land disputes between Dibba Al-Hisn and Dibba Al-Baya, which were resolved in the 1990s. Dibba Al-Hisn is believed to be the site where the Portuguese built a fort and a wall around the city during the Iberian Union. Dibba Al-Baya is the most northerly of the 3 Dibbas, and acts as a gateway to the Musandam Peninsula. Notable people: Al-Mahali Ibn Abi Sufra, an Azdi Arab and an eminent military commander born in Dibba, whose name appeared on the first edition of the United Arab Emirates dirham coins shortly after the people of the country accepted Islam. Laki bin Malik, a false prophet and an Azdi Arab in Dibba, also known as the Crowned One, who rose against the local Muslim Julanda rulers. The army led by Hudayfa and supported by Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl and Arfahar arrived at Al-Ain, Burimi, where they wrote to local tribes to convince them to abandon the revolt. They then marched against and defeated Laki in battle at Dibba, where reports of combined casualties of 10,000 are mentioned. Hudayfa then remained in Oman as governor, restoring peace with the local tribes and bringing them back to the fold of Islam, while the remaining troops to Mara in southern Arabia, to Ashi and Yemen. In popular culture, "We will go to Dibba, and we will see how summer feels like," is a saying popular in the UAE and Oman. It is used to express the ability of proving a point, a test if a fact is true or not. Since Dibba allegedly enjoys a cooler weather in the summer than the rest of the UAE,